Well, Barry, thank you so much for joining us today. We'd love to sit and just talk hockey a little bit for our coaches and parents and players that are listening. So one of the things, you and I have been talking, and you've talked about these 5 habits that you think that you could take right now, and a coach could take that and just put it right into what they're doing. They'll see some immediate improvement, and that's something that I'm super curious to kind of dive into.
Yeah, well, I think the first thing that no one really discusses, and it's really important how the game is played and how your bench works. And I was very lucky to work with Scotty Bowman for so many years, and he was a very strong component on line changes and making sure your shift length was correct and how you came off the ice and how you left the ice as you came off and how you went back on the ice. So in essence, we don't even discuss it. But just to give you an example, my grandson was playing this summer, and they had these cross-ice games. They had 3 zones. So they had 3 zones, and they had 3 different games going on simultaneously. And they all changed on the whistle. So everybody would change on the whistle. So by changing on the whistle, it's easy. You hear a sound, and you come off. You don't know what the time is. You don't know whether you're offense or defense or back checking or forward checking. You have to come off because that's when the whistle goes. So I went down and suggested, why don't you make them change on their own so that they have to understand you can't change when the opposition's, attacking you, and you can't stay on the ice for 2 minutes. The game went to a halt. No one knew how to change. So they have no philosophy or feeling of when do I change, how do I change, the next person goes, how you come off the bench, how you get on, going to the bench, and do you take the wide side of the ice and so forth. So basically, if you can improve your line changes with shorter shifts with more intensity and change at the right time, your team has more strength. You're more together. You don't have the one guy coming off being caught and the ice balance is changed. So in essence, it's very simplistic, but we don't do it.
What would be some practical things you would tell a coach? So say there's a coach that's like, all right, I hear that, but the player comes to the bench and, we would think, all right, the player coming off always is going to stand next to the wall and make sure the player can come on. When do they start hopping the wall? Like, what are some of the little things you guys implemented that made a big difference?
Well, Scotty would have two sound pieces. One was like a football horn and the other was a whistle. And he would have one for one team, one for the other. So if you heard the whistle, that was your team to change. You had to change as quickly as possible from the time that whistle was blown. And you had to change at the right moment. You couldn't change on a back check. You had to change, or leave the ice wide open. And if you heard the horn, that means the other team had to change as quickly as they could. And he would keep track of the guys' shifts. So if somebody stayed out there for a minute and a half, he was told. But in a game, if you didn't come off hard, you wouldn't play the next shift.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So
So in essence, you don't think about it, but it gives you ice. It gives you ice strength because you're always having your complement of 5 players. You're always taking the wide side of the ice, so you're never leaving a lane open that's so easy to come up and down the ice with. You're not leaving breakaways. And really, your forwards learn that if you're in your own end for a period of time and you get up to the neutral zone, your defense has to change. So it's your job to get that puck in. You can't just turn it over, and now they're coming back, and your D is at the bench, and you have a wide open back end. So it's a big part of it.
Yeah, it is a really big part of it. We were talking, I remember reading something about some of the philosophies you guys had during the Wings were obviously here in the Metro Detroit area, you're a household name. Anyone who was a hockey fan, or really a sports fan at that time, and all the success the Wings had, and Scotty Bowman having his success, but talk to players and former players that had you were such a massive part of that, and the 2 coaches on the bench being in line with the line changes, that's such a small thing. That is something that every coach can sit there and I'm thinking about all our practices.
But also too, it's also to get your shift length shorter so you have more intensity in your shift. So case in point, you're a star player and you're playing 20 minutes, but your shift length is about anywhere from 48 to 52 seconds. Okay, so in essence, you're playing 20 minutes, you probably have about 28 shifts, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to go to you and say, listen, if you give me 35 shifts, I'm going to play you, I'll give you 20 minutes. But if you're going to give me 28 shifts, I'm not going to give it to you. What's the difference? Shift length. Intensity per shift.
And now you're speaking the player's language.
Yeah.
Now ice time is what they want. They want to be out there.
So just do the math.
Yeah. That's a great perspective. Then it's easy for them to buy into. It's like, sure, too. That's awesome. That's a great one. So what would be another one?
Well, you were a goaltending aficionado, right? But shooting, if we allow our players in practice just to shoot randomly, how do we expect them to be pinpointed in the game? I mean, we have to practice with purpose. And I'll go to a number of rinks and all you hear is the glass. Bang, 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 bang. Guys are shooting over the post. They don't care. You know, you don't even get action off that shot that goes over the crossbar and hits the glass, because the opposition might have a better breakout, comes around the wall. All right, you're attacking, the puck goes the opposite way. You have no chance for a rebound. The goalie hasn't had to make a save. And then you had to respond to wherever the puck goes next. But if you put it on net, I know where it's going to go. I can go to that area and perhaps I have a rebound or a second chance. So in essence, in our shooting practices, two points. One is get it on net, especially if you don't have a good angle. You don't shoot for a particular pad or 5-hole. And then secondly, why would you want to shoot on clean ice every time you do a shooting drill? It never happens in a game where you come down and unless you have at the end of the game and you're doing penalty shots, have a chaser, have somebody angle you, go around somebody, read something, and then release the puck. Shoot through somebody.
So the fresh ice, skate down to the blue line and take a shot isn't necessarily making anybody better.
Doesn't happen in the game.
Yeah.
You're not replicating anything.
Right. I played in Scandinavia for a while, and they started so many practices, it was angle shots, and the coaches are like, this is better for you. You did get angle shots. I think you're right. But it's fresh ice, and they're walking right down, and then the angle ends up right down the middle.
And they shoot when I don't quite have it where I want it on my stick yet. Now I do, so now I'm going to shoot it.
Right.
Meanwhile, in a game, you got to shoot it sometimes off the heel, off the toe, up behind you, in front of you, wherever you have a chance to get that shot. And then secondly, if we know the shot's on net, and I'm a forward who's with you, I'm going to go to the net. I'm going to go there because I know you're going to get that shot on that. But if you just randomly, it's like in golf. Okay, you have a great tee shot. Okay, second shot, now you're at the blue line, offensive blue line. And then you come and you're ready to putt and you just hammer it.
Well, that is actually how I golf. You just explained it.
So how do you score?
No, that's good. So line changes and then just varying the shots and then like what the shots look like in practice.
Just so it's game situational, right. And you're going to improve. And then you have a situation that we don't talk about much, and that is every time you pass, every time you make a play, you move. You don't watch it. You move as quickly as you can because you want to get a return pass. So every time we have any type of passing situation, we want that movement done immediately and movement to get open with stick presence. Now, the problem we have with some young players is they don't have stick presence. Where do you want the puck? Do you want it off your front foot? Do you want it off your back foot? Do you want it on your forehand? Do you want it on your backhand? You show me where that stick is and I have a chance to pass it to you. But if you have it off your hip in the air, it's not easy for me to pass the puck to you there. Right. So give and go, quick movement, and with that would be another one of your caveats, and that is going to be every time you go to the boards in your defensive zone, you're never beat in a race back to inside the dots by the player you played.
Okay.
Take conversely, if you're in the offensive end, I make a play, I beat the opposition off the boards to inside the dots every time I can. That little race, I can't tell you how many goals are scored from that race.
And probably stop defensively.
Absolutely.
So you're on the wall, the play happens. Once that play happens, you have to win the race.
It's an absolute race to get back inside those dots.
Okay, just inside the dots and then...
And if you're defensively, try to stay inside the man you're covering, the defensive side. Mm-hmm. Offensively, you're trying to beat him to the offensive side.
But if you win that race, you're there on both sides.
Absolutely.
What a simple but transferable concept.
Think about it. You have about every 4.5 seconds in an NHL game, you have a race. So what happens after the race? Where it goes next? Who responds the quickest? And it has to be done in practice over and over again. So it's a habit there's no thought process. It's an automatic. Because once you think, you're late.
Right. But win a race, that's developable. It's like always go.
And you can do all kinds of practices for it.
Right. Oh, that's excellent. And that is something that you start to formulate. If we're going to plan a practice right now off these things, we almost got to practice that.
Yeah. And then you have change of possession. Okay, change of possession on both sides of the puck. Who responds the quickest as a team wins that moment. Okay, so I'm coming in on the attack, and we cross the offensive blue line. We turn the puck over, which is going to happen. Okay, we couldn't enter the puck cleanly. It's turned over. How quickly does our forward group and our defense respond and get into position to play defense? How quickly do we turn to the inside, not to the boards to come back, but turn to the middle of the ice to come back, because that gives me a chance to get 3 steps quicker to come back in the middle of the ice. If I turn to the boards, I still have to get back to the middle of the ice, and I lose 6 steps.
Right. So change possession.
How
now.
quickly do you respond,
It's all
offensively, defensively?
All 5 players.
Yes. Your better teams do that quicker than the opposition, and those are the moments you score the most goals. You score the most goals on turnovers, not in breakouts going 200 feet.
And we talked a little bit earlier about the modern game and sometimes the non-modern practice where you see a player, standing behind the net with the puck and another player standing on the wall stagnant with no pressure.
Right.
And another player in the middle, and they practice these choreographed plays and breakouts that don't happen.
Correct.
And
every play in the game is never the same. It's a continually a different slant, different angle, different position, different spot on the ice.
To your point earlier about the shooting, different ice conditions,
Yes.
different point of the game, different intensity.
Yep.
So those are excellent. And those are things that all coaches, and I know you've spoken recently on this to colleges and different groups from all, but as also a 10U coach, I'm hearing things like that's something you can implement there.
Yeah.
So it's all levels.
It has to start at the younger ages.
Yeah.
Because this is not something which is difficult to do. This is just a mindset.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's another really good message because I've heard people say it's simple, not easy, and it's like having that, if these type of concepts are not difficult to comprehend, but you have to do them and you have to be cognizant of them and aware and, get them to your players and make sure they buy into them. So was there another piece of that?
Yeah, there's another piece, and this is a little bit off your transitional play, same thing a little bit off the boards, but pretty much in every circumstance in a game of hockey, you would like to have a 3-man support system, if possible, a triangulation, or you can call it whatever you want. So, as I said, we have races about every 4.5 seconds in an NHL game. So, the quicker our team, my team, your team, anybody's team, can read the race, the better chance they have of being better offensively or defensively. If I see that you're way ahead of me, you're the opposition, and I have no chance to make contact with you or win that race, my number 2 forward on my line would take a defensive slant because I can't win the race. You're going to have the puck. So therefore, if he thinks correctly, he'll have a defensive slant and take a defensive side of the opposition. And the same with the third forward, who comes in, I'm first, this guy's second, you're third. You have to read 2 and you read 3. So the quicker we read off each other, the better chance we have of being correct. Conversely, if the race is even, so you and I are going to be 50-50, which means there's body contact, usually the next player in, which we call second quick, is a difference maker now because he can get a chance to win the puck. We have 2 versus 1. And how quickly does that person get in there?
So second quick, that's the player who is anticipating that his teammate's going to get in a 50.
Anytime there's contact.
Okay, so shoulder, you're going.
Yep.
And then that triggers a third player
To stay a little higher and read off what's going to happen next. So the quicker your team can read, like we were very lucky in Detroit that we had not just good hockey players, we had smart hockey players. And usually good has to be smart. Okay. But we had really the IQ of those teams was exceptional. You don't know it till you go to a team that doesn't have IQ.
Yeah, that's when you find that out the hard way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So when you talk about, these are all excellent. You talk about IQ. So those teams that you're a part of, they're obviously legendary teams. IQ mentioned. What was another trait that might have been unique to that group of players? Yeah.
Well, I think it started with Bowman, Scotty, and we're very lucky to have a good coaching staff. Dave Lewis was with this, and then Joey Koser. It was a good group of guys really to work with under Scotty, and Scotty was sort of above us all. At that time he was older in his career and had coached thousands of games, right? So I would say to you, he knew how to use the players, and if you had a role, he would put you in that role in a game and give you a chance to respond to it. And the reinforcement you'd have is you'd have a chance to go out again. So he reinforced the different roles we had on the team. And that's the reason why they won in Detroit, was because it wasn't the first line that was better than the opposition. So it wasn't the goaltender that was better than the opposition. It was the entire team. So the depth of the teams made us stronger. The third line in Detroit was stronger than the opposition's third. Fourth line was stronger than the fourth line. 5-6 defensemen were stronger than their 5-6 defensemen. So the strength of the team came from numbers. And I think the guys responded to it, and the team was well bonded because they all had a role to play.
You're talking about putting people in roles, and it's somewhat well documented here how what the different roles that Steve Yzerman took as his career progressed, and the different guys like Chris Draper, the roles that he leaned into, Brendan Shanahan, Sergei Fedorov. There's a time Fedorov played D for a while, right?
Yeah, over a month. Yep.
Right. So when you're talking about not just convincing players that are happy to be in the league to play a role, you're talking about convincing some of the best that have ever played to play in a role.
And it's one thing to ask somebody to play a role. I think if they're going to play it successfully, you have to reinforce them, so they know that they're important to the team, and you have to use them. If you don't just, hey, Phil, you're going to play this, and then we don't use you, you're not going to respond in a positive way. I mean, but if you're there in those moments that count, and that's your job, and you do well, you're rewarded for it.
So you guys are very focused on each player's individual experience within the team game, because that to me, when you say that, regardless of the role you're playing, you know that you're going to be out again, and the coaches value you're not just eating minutes.
And Bowman, for a bench coach, was extremely above everybody. I mean, he was above most other coaches in his idea of who's going to go next, what's the matchup going to be. It's almost like mathematically, he knew which line was going to be coming up and be ready for it. And the matchups were strong, and utilizing one group that was maybe having a really good game more than another. So different things.
Yeah, that's another. I love that point, because sometimes when you have great players, they might only be good players on a particular night.
Yep.
And there might be good players that they're playing great.
Yeah, they're on their game that night.
They're on that, and it takes a smart coach and a brave coach, really.
Well, he was the first coach that I had a chance to work with that played 3 lines of 4 forwards at times. And that meant each line had 4 forwards. Of those 4 forwards, usually one position would change every other shift. So the center would go almost every single time. And say the left wingers were really good on the team. Just say the left wingers are really good. That means left wing and center went every single time. Okay, and the right wings interchanged. So one time you'd go and then have to wait 3 shifts, and then the 4th shift you go, the guy counter you would go, and then you wait 4 shifts and then you go. And his philosophy was that the best 6 players played more than everybody else, 2, 2, and 2. And then the guys who played off each other had competition to see who was going to play the last 10 minutes of a third period.
And those players are fresh.
Yeah.
So they're
competing hard because they want to play at the end of the game.
Then you play your last 3 minutes. Now, when that time was there, how many TV timeouts were in the NHL?
There was 1 less for sure.
So how do you think that would have changed now? We talked a little bit about the.
Well, I think it affects your 4th line the most, because the 4th line is the most difficult role to play. You don't get the ice time. You can't turn the puck over. You've got to get it out. You've got to get it in. You have to have physical contact. You have to be physical. I mean, that is not easy to play. And sometimes they have to drop the gloves, possibly, right? But as they play, okay, 1st line goes, 2nd line goes, 3rd line goes. Maybe you have a power play penalty kill, so they still haven't gone yet. Then all of a sudden there's a timeout. Okay, now what do? You start with 1, 2, 3.
Right.
I mean, it's hard to stay in the game mentally.
Exactly, and that's where that 3 line.
And very seldom do you see a 4th line start after a timeout.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's only in a situation where the game's at a point where the coach is just managing minutes for the next game, right?
Yeah.
That's really interesting. So you've had the opportunity, you mentioned Scotty Bowman and the guys that you worked with in Detroit. You also worked with Bob Johnson a bit. Talk a little bit about something you might have taken from him, and one of the things that kind of translates into your coach.
Well, he was the most optimistic person and coach I've ever had a chance to be with.
Oh, wow.
And he was also a person that really loved the game of hockey. And he liked talking hockey with just about everybody. He came from a college background, and then he got into the USA Hockey, then pros. So he had a really diverse background with different types of levels of hockey. And he loved his offensive players. He loved the power play. It was like a ballet for him to try to orchestrate it and make sure it's going to work, and the guys. And he was just a very, very positive human being that I think the guys really enjoyed playing for. Every day was a good day.
Yeah, I couldn't
wait.
Go in the rink in Wisconsin.
No, he was an amazing person, and ironically, we won that first year in Pittsburgh, and I'm sure we would have won again the second year with him, but that situation came where he passed.
Yeah, it's tragic. The game lost a great one there. Yeah. You mentioned the love of the game. That's something when I have an opportunity to talk to parents and players, it's like that's the most important part that coaches have and parents have when kids, they love the game at 8 or 9. If they don't love the game at 12, that's on the parents and the coaches, because the true greats, you watch them and they still love it. Last year in Detroit or 2 years ago when Kane got to the team, you could tell he's playing because he absolutely loves hockey.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason why he's so great. And Larkin and Raymond and Sider, the guys who are the best are the ones who love it. And to hear somebody like Bob Johnson that was like truly loved it like that.
Even practices. Yeah. Love practice.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Not just game. Just to have the guys out there and talk about what they're doing. And no, he was a terrific individual, and he was a very good family man. The whole family was great because you met, Mark and the whole family. Met the girls. The whole contingent was always behind him.
Yeah, that's cool. What a legend. He definitely left a legacy.
Yeah.
Going to the modern practice. So when you watch practices, you talk to coaches. Is there something that you feel like they spend too much time on, or they waste time on now that you can maybe say stop doing this and start doing this to just be more efficient and help players play the modern game?
Yeah, it's the hardest game to practice. It really is, because you have so many components to practice, and then how do we break up the ice? How many assistant coaches do you have? Are you going to do stations or zones? It's really a difficult, and you're on the clock. You're on the clock. Either 60-minute practice, 50-minute practice, hour and 15, whatever it may be. And I'm talking about, not college, but youth coaches.
Yeah.
So you have a clock you're trying to monitor. You're trying to make sure you get these different techniques in, some fundamentals in, maybe a system in, maybe a power play penalty kill or whatever. And we waste so much time as coaches trying to maybe do this, change this drill, do this drill. So if I was to put a clock on most teams in North America, on every individual, in a 60-minute practice, how much active time do you think each participant has? I'm just asking you.
Well,
just for a common practice. I mean, because you have 60 minutes, you have 18 players plus 2 goalies. Okay, that's 20. And you want to do a practice, and the clock starts, bang, you're on. 60-minute practice. So active participation. That doesn't mean they're lying. That doesn't mean listening. I'm talking about you're actively doing something.
I'm going to guess 20 minutes.
A lot less.
Yeah, that's what I was always scared of, when it should be 48 minutes.
But that's almost impossible too, right? Unless you're just continuous.
Right.
So what happens is the ice time, you really have to be efficient at what you're going to do as a coach. It takes a lot of time to do those practices. And if you have assistant coaches, how can you utilize them so that you have more people going? In North America, we like a lot of long drills. Okay, long drills mean you might start from one end and go to the other end, or you go from neutral zone up to the far blue line, back to your blue line, back in and shoot. It's like a big horseshoe. The longer duration of a participant has to do a drill, the longer it takes, the less repetitions you have, because you have to wait in line for the next guy to go. And the shorter duration you have and the quicker you make it, the more reps you're going to have and the more participation you're going to have per player. So you almost have to go shorter drills. We do a lot of multiple skill drills. You've got to do right over left, left over right. You may have to turn backwards, open up. You may have to catch a pass on your forehand. You may have to make a pass. You get the pass back, and now you shoot. You've done 4 skills before you even shoot the puck.
Yeah.
So if you want a simplistic, you catch a pass and shoot. And you get more reps. And where's the puck go? Where's your shot go? What do you do next after that?
Go get the puck.
Yeah.
Which that's hockey.
Correct. What's your transition? You don't go back in line and swing to the boards.
Yep. Yeah, that was another thing we were talking about the other day. If you're creating a scenario where if you shoot the puck and you're so concerned about getting back in line, you just created a bad habit.
But I mean, what I'm doing right now, Phil, is I'm going around working with different organizations, college, academies, prep school, much like yourself, Honey Baked here, different groups, and trying to help the coaches, give them some different ideas for practices so that they can have better game performance. And they don't have to change their drills completely, just add on or delete or make it more replicable. But if we understand the game, what is the game today? If we understand it, then you can practice it.
Right.
But if you practice something which isn't in the game, that's not the game, doesn't reflect the game, you're not going to have better game performance.
That's such a profound statement, and that's
But
what
it is.
Yeah, it takes a little bit of time studying the game, and then recognizing what the game is now. Not necessarily what it might have been when we grew up, or the last coach that we all had.
Sure.
That sort of.
And who changes the games? The rules have changed the game, and coaches have changed the game, not the players.
Right.
I mean, if I have 5 players at the college level or even junior level, 5 against 5, no coaches on the bench, no coaches in the locker room, and we're going to play, guys. We're going to have a scrimmage today. So I'm the center. I win the puck back to my left D, and he shoots it in. I promise you, all 4 guys are going to look and say, "That's all you got?"
Right.
I mean, you couldn't make a play. I mean, we win the faceoff and you just dump it in. Yeah. Meanwhile, the coach does a great job.
Right.
You got it in.
Well, you didn't mess up.
Yeah,
it's 200 feet from our net.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's so true. That's great. Well, this is excellent. I really appreciate you sharing all this. I think that all of our listeners are going to take a ton from it, and it's really good. So,
well, it's great to be back in the Detroit area. Seriously. Well, it's such a wonderful time here, and you have such great youth hockey here. You really do.
We're really, really fortunate to have.
And now colleges.
Yeah. The Michigan State 1 and 2, Western Michigan coming off a
last year
championship. Yeah, it really is. It's great. I mean, you were a big part of building this into Hockey Town, but we're fortunate to have the environment we have, and to have you back in town. So thanks again.
Thank you.
Awesome.